8 mice, 4 male, 4 female, a space roughly the size of a large room, with food that never ran out and water that never dried up. No predators, no disease, no cold winters, no scarce resources of any kind, just warmth and safety and unlimited access to everything a mouse could ever need. In 1968, an American scientist named John Calhoun built what he called a paradise for mice, and then he sat back and watched it destroy itself. 5 years later, every single mouse was dead, not from starvation, not from infection, not from any of the things that normally kill mice, from something Calhoun spent the rest of his life trying to name, something that has no entry in any medical textbook, something that, by the end, he believed wasn't just a mouse problem at all. He called it Universe 25. Calhoun wasn't just a scientist, he was obsessed with a single question: what happens to a society when nothing is hard anymore? He had been chasing the answer for 2 decades before Universe 25. He had run 24 earlier versions of the same experiment, in barn enclosures, in laboratory rooms, in a quarter-acre forest in Maryland. Different settings, different variables, same result every single time. The population would explode, violence would spike, mating would collapse into apathy, then the colony would die. 24 times he had seen the same pattern. The 25th was supposed to be the clean version, the perfect one, the final proof. He set it up inside a federal research lab in Maryland, 9 feet square, with apartments stacked along every wall, reached by mesh tunnels running floor to ceiling. He called them walk-up apartments. The food hoppers never ran empty, the water bottles never ran dry. He calculated the space could comfortably support around 3,800 mice. It would never come close. On day 1, he placed his 8 founders inside and closed the lid. For the first 104 days, almost nothing happened. The mice explored, learned the layout, figured out who slept where. Then the first litters arrived, and the population began to double. Every 55 days, twice as many mice as before. By day 315, more than 600 animals were crammed inside, and that is the moment everything began to fall apart. In a normal mouse colony, when the population grows past what the territory can absorb, the surplus mice leave. They find new ground somewhere else. Inside Universe 25, there was no new ground, so the young males with nowhere to go and no role to fill began drifting toward the center of the enclosure. They formed listless pools of bodies. Calhoun would stand above the pen for hours, watching them do absolutely nothing. They had food, they had water, they had shelter, they had everything. They had nothing to do. A second group formed at the same time, on the opposite end of the spectrum. These males were frantic and indiscriminate. They moved through the enclosure faster than any other mice. They forced themselves into nests they hadn't earned. They ignored every social ritual. They refused to be deterred even by violence. In the worst pockets of the colony, behaviors appeared that no functioning mouse society had ever produced. Then the mothers began to fail. Defending a nest had always required 2 animals. When the overwhelmed males stopped helping, the females had to do everything themselves. The exhaustion broke them. Mothers began abandoning their pups in scattered places around the enclosure. Some forgot which young were theirs. In the worst stretches, mothers started eating their own offspring. In some sections of the colony, fewer than 1 in 20 newborns survived to weaning. By this point, Calhoun wrote, the social fabric was effectively dead. The bodies were still alive. The structure that held them together as a species was not. The pups that did survive grew up with no model of what a normal life looked like, and when they reached adulthood, they behaved like nothing Calhoun had ever seen. They never fought. They never tried to mate. They never engaged in any social behavior at all. They ate. They slept. They groomed themselves obsessively. Their fur was perfect because they had never been in a single fight. They moved through the colony as if the other mice simply didn't exist. Calhoun named them the beautiful ones. They were the healthiest looking mice in the entire colony. They were also completely useless to their species. Their nervous systems had developed inside a world where every social role was already filled by someone else, so they had simply opted out. On day 560, the population peaked at 2,200 mice. It would never go higher. The last successful conception inside Universe 25 happened on day 920. After that, no new mice were born. The beautiful ones kept grooming. The isolated females stayed in their high apartments, and one by one, the mice died of old age with no replacements coming up behind them. On May 23, 1973, the last mouse in Universe 25 died, 4 years and 10 months after Calhoun had closed the lid. He wrote that the mice had died 2 deaths. The first was the death of the spirit. The second was the death of the body, and the first one happened years before the second. When the paper came out, everyone read the same lesson into it. Comfort kills. Abundance destroys. A life with no struggle collapses on itself. The beautiful ones became one of the most cited metaphors of the late 20th century. But that wasn't what Calhoun actually said. His real conclusion was sitting right there in the paper. The killer wasn't comfort. It was the disappearance of meaningful roles. When the population grew faster than the supply of roles the colony could offer, the mice with nothing to do stopped functioning. Not because they were lazy, because a life without purpose isn't really a life. It's just waiting. The food never ran out. The water never ran out. What ran out was something nobody had thought to put in the paradise to begin with. Calhoun spent the rest of his career not predicting collapse but trying to prevent it. He believed humans could choose differently. He believed we could keep creating new roles faster than old ones disappeared. He called it ideational generativity, a long phrase for a simple idea. The way out is to keep finding new reasons to be here. But Universe 25 is still sitting in the data. 8 mice, a perfect world, a complete extinction, and a cause of death that no toxicology report would ever be able to name. The mice had no choice. We still do.